What's a dead giveaway someone is not doing well mentally? Story 1. Speaking from personal experience, having time to do things you enjoy, but doing nothing. Not out of laziness, more like lack of motivation. This is me. I look forward to the weekends because I'll have time to do what I enjoy. Then the weekend gets here and it's like I can't motivate myself to do those things, and I end up just sleeping the weekend away instead. Hello, fellow ADHDers. I'm not mentally in a bad place. In fact, lately, life has been great, but this is just daily life for me. Then again, ADHD is a mental issue. But I just have to live with it. No amount of happiness will change that. Years of mental health treatment and I only vaguely understood this. Lately, I spend all my time staring at the ceiling because that is more interesting and doable to me than something I know I really like, or any activity, like piano, video games, or even a TV show. And if I attempt to do anything anyway, I will be more exhausted than before. If you're incapable of doing things you enjoy, seemingly for no reason, then you may want to look into ADHD. Executive dysfunction is a real problem. I often sit on my phone yelling at myself in my head to get up and do any number of hobbies, but am unable to move my body to do them. My mind and body just aren't connected, or don't want the same things. This goes away on Adderall. Of course, this is different from feeling like nothing interests you or is worth it anymore, which is a depression symptom. Story 2. Basic chores are not done for weeks. I had my mom come over in November and help me sort papers into 4 piles based on how I needed to follow up. We stacked them in the ottoman and now I call it Mount Doom instead of a Doom pile because it's topped with gift bags, my crocheting basket, instruction manuals from Christmas toys, and the current package of paper plates I'm using. Someone top that. Grief is weird. Don't judge me. When my husband died, I had to hurriedly throw everything into boxes to move within months. It wasn't organized at all, and I have no idea where anything is. Every time I open up a box, there's something in there to bring back strong memories and sandbag me for the rest of the day. So I am surrounded by boxes. It's been over a year. Came here to say this. I am constantly exhausted lately for no reason. Like, I think I'm okay mentally, but clearly I'm not because I'm normally the clean my house twice a week human, and I just can't lately. I think it's partially out of frustration as well, which encompasses not mentally okay. I clean, and these 2 dogs and 2 cats and man and kid just make messes constantly. I work hard at 2 jobs and it's just too much. Yes, I am at fault for having 2 dogs, both puppies 2 years for one, and 4 months for the other, 2 cats, a man and a kid. But holy crap, and before anyone jumps the gun, the man is a blessing. Anytime I just can't, he does it for me. Just not to my standard, and definitely not mopping. But Lord, have mercy, this comment hit home. I always change sheets once a week, but this time, I've been using the same ones for like a month. All my forks and spoons are dirty. I'm running out of clean clothes, and when someone like my dad comes, I just take all the stuff on the floor and hide them in the closet. I have a big closet. At least I'm consistently taking the trash out. Send help. Yep, this is it for me. When I wasn't mentally well, garbage piled for weeks on my desk. I always clean up anything that can rot or smell, but other things like package envelopes, little plastic bags, used tissues. Sometimes I use something, I put it on my desk when I'm done, and it stays there for 3 weeks. And I'm talking about crap that I definitely don't need to have on my desk, like a spatula or a broken phone charger. I don't fully understand what goes through my head when I'm in that mood. One of the stupidest things I do is move my laptop, which I only use once or twice a week, between my bed and my chair for several days. Depending on where I am going to sit down, the thing is, I have a bag for my laptop and a place where I can store that bag. But when I thought about storing the laptop, I was like, I'll do it tomorrow. For weeks. You simply don't have the mental energy required for even the simplest tasks. It's like self-inflicted microaggressions. Walking around your home, you'll see all of the half-finished / not started things, and each one pangs your subconscious with guilt and shame. even just a little bit, but it adds up. And then you feel more shame about the macro to-do list, and the fact that you're unable to work on these things, that it feels like every other normal person could do just fine, and now you're accumulated, micro-shames themselves cause more shame. And then you get to a point where actually doing a task that's been put off for a long time doesn't give you a positive response. It just feels neutral or slightly reduced negativity. Story 3. Usually, it's difficult to process what people are saying, and have trouble starting sentences. It's about to happen tomorrow morning, considering it's Monday tomorrow. Happens to me all the time. My hearing is excellent, but I can't understand what people are saying half the time and have to ask them to repeat it once or twice. That, coupled with I frequently jumble words when starting sentences. I don't know what's wrong with me, lol, never used to be like this. Also have brain fog with terrible memory, trouble concentrating, and no feelings of happiness or sadness. Everything just seems bland and dull. Feels like I'm just existing and watching my life through someone. 12 years ago, when I was a teenager, I was the complete opposite. Wonder what changed? It's interesting how many of you are having the same problems. The best analogy of how I feel is like Eddie, or Bradley Cooper, in Limitless, when he is not on NZT, or when his ex-wife tells him her condition after stopping NZT use. The parts of your brain that handle speech become less active when the areas that handle stress or heightened emotions become active. Basically, your brain's fight-or-flight response. You don't need words when you're running from bears, which is troublesome when those bears are actually emails that you need to send and conversations with loved ones. Same here. If I'm feeling rough, I have to ask people to repeat what they've just said because I just don't have the bandwidth to process what they're saying quickly enough. Then I also have to actively think about what I'm going to do the day before it will come out of my mouth. And Mondays are like that for me too, since I really don't enjoy my job right now. I get a little better when I have a job that I love, but working every week all week just to have 48 hours off really affects you after decades of it. I'm autistic and have a savant syndrome called type 2 hyperlexia. I started reading when I was younger than 3, and I don't read by the line. Instead, it's more like a loop/curlicue pattern. And my reading speed for 100% surface comprehension is 1,600 words per minute. And I get really frustrated and lose my place if I can only read one line and/or one word at a time. And it also is why I suck at summarizing and I'm really good at spelling and have had a very large vocabulary from a very young age. I like explaining what I mean and clarifying miscommunications because it calms me down and helps me organize my thoughts, especially over text, because it's easier and quicker for me to take in what the other person is saying. And it also helps me articulate my end more clearly because I have a very thorough/longhand way of explaining things that can be difficult for both myself and the other person to follow, IRL. Both because I think more efficiently in writing and because I apparently sound like a nerdy village idiot when I'm talking IRL according to other people. But when my mental health is poor or I'm getting a migraine, it's pretty much the only time that I would rather talk verbally instead of in written format because my thoughts become horribly slow and jumbled, and it hurts to think, and I can't explain myself properly, and I get overwhelmed when I try to communicate over text. Because it's frustrating and painful and confusing. And when I try to write out a lengthy explanation, instead of it making things more organized, I end up with a nonsensical word salad that frustrates and flusters me more and more as I keep trying and failing to straighten it out. So when I'm sick like that, I can't think in more complicated ways than blurting out monosyllabic answers to simple questions without freaking out, if that makes sense. Story 4. Zoning out. Overthinking, emotionless, exhausted, and oversleeping. Or not being able to fall asleep or stay asleep. Me right now in this very thread. It's nearly 1 a.m. and I have to be up for work by 7:30. I spent all weekend analyzing issues in my separation and my son being away with his dad. I twisted my back Friday evening and have barely slept all weekend. I'm both so tired and also wide awake. I am too mentally drained to cry, even though I want to sleep almost as desperately as I want to. I feel like I'm doomed. Sending you a virtual hug, my friend. I'm in a bit of a sleepless pickle myself as well. It sucks when you're beyond exhausted, yet your mind refuses to shut down and let you get the rest that you so desperately need. I have insomnia that flares up with grief or stress. Last year, I lost 3 family members over the course of a few months, and my insomnia went into overdrive. I couldn't sleep for months, just would be awake for 48 to 72 hours straight. I highly recommend writing. Just brain dump everything, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're afraid of, just everything. Dump it out. It can truly help as opposed to churning and churning and churning on the same thoughts for months. Everyone in this thread saying oversleeping, but have you tried staying up or getting up after everyone else has gone to bed just to sit up and do nothing but scroll Reddit or TikTok? Just because for a few sweet hours, you don't have to carry the burden of everyone else's expectations, and you know as soon as you go to sleep that crap will start all over? Story 5. Short responses. Drug abuse. Not talking to friends, loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities. I'm in this situation right now. I don't know how to get out of it. I'm considering options though. Maybe go back to therapy. I don't feel like I can talk to my SO about it because she, for some reason, takes it personally when I'm unhappy. So I have just pretended that everything is fine. I even told myself that in order to not have to deal with it. But I do, or rather don't, all of these points. It just dawned on me recently that it probably is serious and I better do something. Going around unhappy for the rest of my life would not be ideal, to say the least. I have been this way most of my life, sadly. I get short bursts of happy life and a lot of downtime in between where I just lose all my interest and hope and start abusing substances until I get another few months of happy life again. The cycle never ends. I always used to describe it as clinical depression, but once I talked with my doctor and therapist about it, yeah, that's just depression. That cycle describes me perfectly, short bursts of happy, or at least normal, between days, weeks, or even months of depression. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. Meds help a bit for me, it's different for everyone. Literally everyone in my family has it, so I kind of had the groundwork for which meds to try. I also saw a therapist for a while. I probably should again, but the one I could actually schedule with was not a great fit. Maybe a better fit would help more. My doctor wanted therapy before trying any meds, but so much of therapy is self-driven and self-motivated that it was feeling impossible to actually even start it. And once I did, and the very first didn't fit well with me, I was discouraged. My SO also deals with depression and other stuff, so she usually knows more about what I'm describing. With other people, it helps to talk about physical symptoms sometimes, then about lack of interest, lack of spark, or however you want to describe it. I try not to focus or ruminate on my general outlook on life and the world, and just take care of what is in arm's reach. It's already hard enough. I was diagnosed with GAD, general anxiety disorder, a few years ago. I did SSRI for about a year. It was a very crazy year for me, and I don't know how much of that was a reaction to the medication. The year ended with 2 or 3 weeks in a mental hospital. After that, I ate quite a high dose of Seroquel for a couple of months. I gained a lot of weight from those pills. It basically was like weed, but crappy. I just had munchies and no thoughts in my head. But I could do my job, and that was good. Because I had quit just before I went to the hospital, had to find a new job after. So do not risk anything. I'd rather try to work with a therapist this time, but I hear you about the motivation to go. I'm very uncomfortable with the whole idea, but something has to give. Story 6. I know I'm bad off when I've lost my appetite. I love food. Same, only happens during periods of extreme stress. When I couldn't even eat my favorite foods, I realized how bad it was. I also couldn't sleep or watch TV or videos at all. Only listen to music and do the necessary tasks each day. The only thing that doesn't happen to me, unfortunately. Otherwise, I could somehow benefit. On the contrary, food is my comfort and most of the time the only excitement during the day. Same. I'm never without an appetite. It's so annoying. I'm not over here wishing I had anorexia or anything, but it wouldn't be so bad if maybe once in a while I felt like I didn't really need to eat lunch. Or if I was disinterested enough in food that a handful of carrot sticks would be enough. I don't even lose my appetite when I've got a cold. I used to be this way until one day I started getting debilitating panic attacks and anxiety to the point where I couldn't keep food down. It really changed my perspective because if I found 5 to 10 minutes I wasn't literally about to puke with anxiety, it was a blessing to choke down a bagel or pasta. As someone who never lost their appetite before, it really made me change my perspective. What happens to me is that I don't really lose my appetite. I still feel hungry, but the thought of eating makes me feel physically sick. I'm not anorexic or anything. I'm actually in the lower range of normal BMI, and I'm aware that I'm not overweight at all. It's almost like my brain just wants me to sabotage myself so that I feel even worse. When this happens to me, I know the depression's back. I mean, the hopelessness is constant, but I don't consider myself constantly depressed. But when I find myself wanting to remain hungry until I'm not, that's when I know my mental state is in a worse state. The last time it happened, people started noticing how skinny I got in a short period of time. It's the first time it got that bad. I never want people to notice that I'm having problems mentally, so I just said I got sick. I did actually get a cold that quickly went away in like 3 days, but I haven't been eating properly in like 2 weeks. People thought I caught a bad flu with my very obvious weight loss. Nope, just miserable. Story 7. When you go to the doctor and you genuinely feel embarrassed answering the mental health questionnaire. Or start crying? No one had asked me how I was in a while. It's very rare for someone to ask, "How are you?" and actually want a genuine answer about your well-being. It's usually a perfunctory social nicety. It's genuinely startling to feel those emotions well up unexpectedly when someone asks for real. My mental health has tanked lately, and my son has been dealing with mental issues for a while. I have been dealing with all those pent-up emotions of my own self, and I have professionals, ICAPS, coming to my house to try to figure out what's going on with him. They sat down with me in one of the sessions and asked me how I was doing with all of that was going on, and I nearly just broke down right in front of them. Dealing with my son's mental health issues is stressful, and I've been forgetting mine. The stress nearly got to me. When I get asked a genuine "how are you?" it's hard to not just break down and cry on the spot because of all the stress I'm dealing with on top of dealing with my son's mental health. I get asked, "Have you had any feelings of depression?" and that's all. The one time I hesitated answering, thinking that maybe I should finally say yes because I felt depressed for years, but have been too afraid and ashamed to admit it, the nurse just added on, "We just need to know if you're going to hurt yourself." So I said no, because I had no plans to hurt myself. So I continued to say no. I'm fine. Every year when I'm asked, because if I'm not planning to hurt or off myself, then I guess it's not bad enough to mention. For what it's worth, I'm a doctor who screens all of my patients for depression and anxiety, and there's absolutely no reason to be embarrassed or to feel like you can't be honest. I genuinely want to know, in part because I want to ensure that your mental health is being addressed as much as your physical health, but also because physical health conditions can manifest as mental health symptoms and vice versa. In my field, there's a ton of overlap, so it's extremely important information for me to have. Story 8. Seclusion and reluctance to start conversations or do activities. When I get into a particularly depressive mood, I will literally lay in bed for hours and days. Not even on my phone or anything, literally just lay there staring at the wall, only ever getting up when the urge to pee becomes too much. My girlfriend will come home and be like, "I want ice cream, put on some pants. You're coming with me." I'll try to say no, but the ice cream isn't for her, it's for me, and she knows that. I'm not gonna turn down ice cream twice. It may not turn me around immediately, but within an hour or two, I'm feeling a bit more alive and not just stuck in bed. In my case, it turned out I was starting to develop psychosis. Nah, I was not okay, even though I just seemed like an unmotivated lazy POS. My mind was convincing me everyone hated me, was going to leave me, and was plotting to ruin my life, that I needed to kill myself. And it felt like I could not think properly, like thinking through mud or trudging your brain through sand. Really, it was a huge, immense weight that I lost a lot of my life to. And what's sad is no one noticed. I wasn't even in the depths of it yet, and it was already ruining my life for almost a year or two. It finally got to the point where I couldn't say it was just anxiety anymore, when I started to really become even more withdrawn and removed from my life. Can you imagine what it feels like to feel that way and how distressing it has to be? And then on top of that, how horrible it makes the people who care about you feel when you believe those things? Yet not a single person notices something is deeply wrong with you. You just seem like a crappy, unreasonable, lazy person. It's horrible, and all of my delusions are always extremely negative things. I never get anything positive. It makes you kind of jealous of people who experience pure mania, because at least they tend to get more positive delusions, lol. It makes me cry when I think to myself, like, who noticed? Who would have ever noticed or cared? Story 9. Always low energy. I have been the same for about 5 months, where I've been working at this horrible company, tired, sad, had no motivation, stuttered while speaking, never happened before, had constant dizziness, and had a weird feeling of numbness on the skin in certain areas of my body. I quit the other day, and it's almost all gone. I feel that if I hadn't made this decision, that job would have killed me. Seriously. I'm going through this right now. Work is so toxic. I'm perfectly fine on weekends. Early Monday mornings, it starts. The moment I open my eyes, I throw up, I cry, and cannot stop. I shake. I get the runs. I can't calm myself down. I went to work this morning, stayed for an hour, told my boss I simply could not cope today, and I left without asking. I just told them. I went to my doctor, got an injection to knock me out. I'm currently in bed. Saw the doctor an hour ago and I'm still awake. Got put on more anxiety meds and booked off for today. Mind you, I'm alone in the office, but the thought of the boss calling and screaming at me, and the fact that the male boss could possibly come into the office made me so freaking anxious it made me sick. I know I'm going to get crap for taking today off, but today I just couldn't deal. It's really so toxic. I'm thinking about whether I should just quit or wait until I have another job. I know this is primarily about mental health, but get your iron and vitamin levels checked. Those two things go a long way for mental health. Vitamin D especially is incredible. Taking it was the beginning of a total turnaround in my life. Went from being able to do nothing ever to be able to function at least enough to eventually get medication and now therapy. I lost 60 pounds and now wake up every morning looking forward to the day. I can actually get things done now and have energy during the day. It's crazy. Iron is also a good suggestion for people with periods. You guys lose blood every month. Make sure you're not anemic. Story 10. Take your frustration out on other people. And it's always the people dearest to you. I'm not an aggressive person, but I can get so passive-aggressive when I'm not well. To people who haven't even done anything wrong, luckily it's been a while since I did that. God, this. I'll snap at someone, my mom, my best friend, my dog, and then cry immediately because I just feel like crap and I don't want to burden others with my emotions when they're trying to be nice. And I can't always control how it comes out. The fact that they're genuinely lovely people in my life deepens the shame. I definitely wouldn't still be here without them. Story 11. Apathy is a big one, I think. That's something I am struggling with for sure. I have PTSD and some other conditions related to the military, and I'm finding it nigh impossible to even care about things my girlfriend needs. Nobody is trying to kill us. This stuff isn't important. I struggle to keep track of the days. I disassociate a lot and just zone out. I don't sleep at night. I'm just generally a miserable person, it feels like. I often think everyone would be better off if I just disappeared. I don't want to die per se, but if I was gone somewhere by myself for the rest of my life, I wouldn't burden anyone else with my existence. And everyone would be better off. My kids, my ex-wives, my family, everyone. Hey stranger, the amount of crap you've seen could fill many lifetimes. Please cut yourself some slack. You're loved and needed, and the crappy thing called PTSD lies to you and makes you feel like absolute crap. I hope you have access to what I believe is called the VA to help you with PTSD and have a solid support system to help you navigate things. As an adult who had a kinda crap childhood, I've learned the things that helped me survive childhood aren't helpful in adulthood. and I kinda think that can be applied to your situation too. The things that helped you during the time you served aren't helpful in everyday civilian life. No one may be trying to kill you right now, but the life you're living with your girlfriend is kinda what you fought to preserve, i.e. regular families just doing stuff, like going to work and taking their kids to school and walking their dogs and going to games or concerts, etc. You've served your time, and now you should try to enjoy the type of life you fought to protect. At least that's what this game thinks. I wish you well. I had to check if I posted this. I did time in the military too. Between how the military brings you up and deployed, it's almost impossible to get anything done that isn't prompted by massive stress to get the adrenaline going. It sucks. I know stuff needs to be done, but I have no energy and I can't focus like a normal person. Hey, I have PTSD from a violent relationship and have just applied to become a volunteer for an armed forces charity. I'll be helping vets get things they need, whether that's therapy, an adopted animal, or just a new fridge or something. Knowing I can use my own understanding of PTSD to help others with trauma from a different place to mine is one of the few things keeping me going. So I thought I'd pass on the idea to you and any other vets with PTSD who might see my comment. I struggle to get out of bed or leave the house some days and think I'm going to be attacked, and/or die 99% of the time. But knowing that somebody who also feels the same needs my help is a lifeline. It's taken me 3 years to get to this point, so I know it's not as simple as just doing it, but it's definitely worth checking out. The only thing worse than having PTSD is feeling like you're completely alone in it. I wish you and OP and others seeing this thread peace going forward in your life. Please see a qualified physician or psychiatrist. There are meds that can help you feel like yourself again. You deserve that. Talk therapy in conjunction with meds might help as well. It's not for everyone, but at the very least, you can learn some coping skills to try. My PTSD isn't anything to do with military service, but reading his comment hit me very close to home. Life is too short to feel like that indefinitely. Getting help in and of itself may feel overwhelming, but it's worth it, even if that means seeing a few different therapists before you find one that you click with. Story 12. When hygiene starts taking a hit on someone who is always presentable, wearing pajama-like outfits or yoga pants or sweats and hoodies in an office setting, when it was never part of your outfits at work. I find this so weird because it's the opposite of me. If I'm not wearing something not socially acceptable for the public, pajama pants and a hoodie or sweats and the shirt I sleep in, and I'm actually wearing clean clothes, then I know something's wrong. It's like I'm punishing myself for something I don't even consciously know about. Sure, wearing something nice and casual is great, but it's super draining for me for some reason. Story 13. Sleeping all day. During one of the worst mental states I've been in my life, I was sleeping around 20 to 23 hours a day. Would literally just wake up once to eat, smoke weed, go to the bathroom, then go back to sleep. Didn't brush my teeth, didn't wash my hair, and dirty dishes piled on my nightstand. Dirty clothes covered the floor. I ended up getting fired from my job because I was sleeping through shifts that started at 5 p.m. How did you get yourself out of that? Well, I accidentally moved in with a guy that I had known for 1 week. Mind you, this is on month like 6 of COVID, so I am lonely as hell. My brain was like, hey, being here is better than being alone and sleeping all the time, so why not stay? I moved my cat and a lot of my stuff over because, again, I was lonely. He made sure I was fed, and we smoked a lot of weed. Time passed. I got really into alcohol. He got really verbally abusive, and I became afraid to live there, but also afraid to leave. But that was when I found my voice. Quite literally, no matter how much people yelled at me before this, I would not yell back. Being with this guy forced me to learn how to fight back, to yell, to stand up for myself. Before, all I had was self-pity and self-hatred. I didn't feel like I was someone worth standing up for. Then I left. I moved out. I was crying and sobbing daily. It was horrible. So I finally put on my big girl pants and moved out. He even yelled at me while I was packing my bags, and I still walked out the door. I would say that's when things changed. When I stood up for myself and genuinely did something that benefited me. I think I started to realize I was worth something, and that made the difference. The initial setting change definitely helped me get out of that pattern as well. Someone else being in my space was nice, even when it wasn't. It was better than being in my own head in the same room, staring at the same walls. Story 14. Sleeping like 22 hours a day, getting up only to not wet the bed, and sometimes you don't even sleep. You just put the covers over your head to block out as much light as possible and stare off into the distance. Your mind is not really forming any coherent train of thoughts until finally sleep brings release. If you're lucky, dream of a time when you weren't in pain. A dream far away from reality, but you aren't lucky. You wake up, and the sun is setting, now another day gone. Whether you got up or didn't, doesn't matter at all. This one got me. I went through this in 2021 during pregnancy and abortion. One day, I'm pretty sure I slept the entirety of the day. On the day I had the abortion, I was on a road trip, and I didn't get out of the car one time the entire 16 hours. I just slept and laid there. Didn't even get out to pee. I'm not sure how. I would sit in my dark room every day, wasting so many days away, and any simple task, even just grabbing water, felt like it took all my energy. Wouldn't wish that feeling on anyone. Hope you're okay. It's particularly crappy when you are completely 100% broke and can't afford to buy a 50-pack of Benadryl to self-medicate yourself to sleep, so that you literally just stare at the ceiling in the dark, thinking about what a colossal failure and disaster your life has become, and how much you hate every aspect of it until you notice you've chipped multiple teeth from grinding and your jaw feels like shattered glass. But you don't notice because the physical pain you're in 100% of the time is far worse. Story 15. A long time ago, I told my doctor I'm not looking to jump in front of a bus, but if a bus was coming, I don't know if I would jump out of the way. Pretty significant health issues. Now under control, but 6 months of antidepressants did make a difference. In a much better place mentally now. How does one start this conversation? Asking for me, my doc, after we finished a regular visit. I have sarcoidosis, diabetes, and chronic migraine headaches. After we discussed the recent tests and options, she asked the question, "We have talked a lot about your physical health and status. You are going through a lot. How are you going mentally?" And I answered honestly. I had a really good doctor who I trusted, and we had a good conversation. I'm hoping you have someone that you can trust in a position that they can help you. Best of luck. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these you feel comfortable sharing with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't yet.